Hi, my name is Paul, and as previously mentioned, I'm from advoli, and we're here to talk a little bit about how we want to change the HDBaseT landscape with HDBaseT graphics card and very unique extenders. So before I start, just a little overview of the presentation today. We're going to start with the company introductions of one sliders that go really quick. Then we're going to talk a little bit about 2018, a little bit in the past, because I was up here presenting last year. And at that time, we introduced a lot of new worlds first. So we're going to do a little recap of what we introduced. And then we're going to talk about the competitive advantage of our products that we launched. And then we're going to do a little quick video introduction of some of the innovations that we made last year. And then we're going to talk about where we're going from here. What are the new innovations that we are doing in 2019 here at ISE? So we're going to talk about the system architecture, a little bit more demos. We're going to talk about the entire lineup, and then some of the use cases. So we are based in Taiwan, Norwegian engineering, proudly manufactured in Taiwan as well. We've officially founded in April of 2015, and this year we're going to do 12 finished products with 4 global patents. Some really cool things and new innovations that we made. And the core motto for us as a company is to be disruptive. We have no interest in doing copy-paste and essentially manufacturing and slap our logo on something. So 2018, I was here, I was making a presentation, and we launched at that time 3 very unique HDBaseT graphics cards. It was the TA6 Performance that could do 6 4K channels over 100 meters. It was the TA6 Distance that could do 150 meters, 1080p. And then we have the TB6 Standards, also 6 channels that could do 1080p over 70 meters. And from there, it's like, okay, that's cool, it's graphics card, but you know, what's at the end of the day, what does that do to my bottom line, and how can it improve the cost and some of the money? So we looked at and released a 40 to 50 page analysis of our competitors, 7 leading competitors using HDBaseT extenders, and we looked at in 4 different brackets. One is procurement cost, then the other is the installation cost, and the third is maintenance, and the fourth, which is more of a bigger item, is the environment, the impact of the environment. So we realized that from a procurement perspective, by taking away all the extenders and power adapters and RS-232 and IR cables, we could reduce the procurement cost by up to 50%. Then we have installation. We looked at, because we simplified all of this, we reduced it with another 50%. Maintenance, nearly 70%. And environment, because we're removing a ton of devices, we're reducing it by 90%. So that's a lot of big numbers, and you might think it's all marketing mumbo jumbo, but let's go one by one, and it'll be very evident how we can save you that much. So in order to do what we've been doing with our HDBaseT graphics card, you need a workstation graphics card, you need 6 HDBaseT transmitters, you need power adapters, remote controls, USB to IR and RS-232, you need your mini DP to HDMI converter because there's no 6-channel HDMI port graphics cards, and you need your USB hubs in order to do emulated controls, plus a bunch of cables. All of this has now become one single device, which is an HDBaseT graphics card. Saves you a lot of points of failure and a lot of physical devices that you need to procure from many different people. It's made it a lot more simple. And then from an installation perspective, you saw all of those devices. So from a competitor's topology, you need to wire all that up. And then you have your media server, you have your IR hub, RS-232, bunch of transmitters, receivers, a ton of points of failure. That means you're looking at about 82 to 101 physical points of failure in your topology. And we're not even talking about DP to HDMI converters, your HDBaseT diagnostic tools, and you're going to have power installation issues because you got 18 power adapters. That's a lot of things that can go wrong. We replaced all of that with just 6 CAT cables. Take all that away, and so in the totality of this, you're looking at 20 to 27 physical points of failure. That's a reduction of over 60 to 80 devices in your topology. And then we talk about the maintenance cost, which is it's really what happens when something goes wrong and you having to send someone down at the installation to fix it. So with extenders, most of them have really poor to no emulation capability of controls. That means you have to have an RS-232 cable, an IR cable, and you need an IR and RS-232 hub. in order to give you Ethernet access to then emulate controls. Also, you have limited to no diagnostic built into most of the extenders. Usually it's a little physical light indicator that tells you how good the signal is. Of course, that's really great if you're on site, but if you're sitting in an office somewhere else and this is your customer, that's not really going to help you very much. And then there's the poor cross-compatibility of diagnostics. A lot of people making their extenders would like to do their extenders in their walled gardens, so they don't want you to access their diagnostic tools. And if you have brand A upstream and a brand B downstream, they may not be able to communicate together when it comes to diagnostics. So what we did with our graphics card is we built in full emulated controls. That means you don't need IR, you don't need RS-232 physical ports, because we do it emulated on the PC. We can also do pass-through if you really want to have a physical remote control. We built in full HDBaseT diagnostics, which means that full HDBaseT diagnostics, which means that we allow to, no matter whether it's a competitor's product downstream, sorry, the speaker's a bit off, we're able to communicate with it and determine the HDBaseT quality link. And it allows you, because of our emulation, to then do this remotely. So you don't have to be on site to read what the diagnostics is like. Also, all of these tools are accessible through our open API. So you can pull all of these queries, get all this data, as long as you have COM access to the computer or to the graphics card. And also we have cross-OS support. So if it's whether it's a Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, our graphics card is cross-OS. So a lot of flexibility and a lot of openness in our architecture and design. And then we look at the environmental costs, because that's also kind of a big impact on the total, I would say also sell, but also the adoption of your technology. And from a competitor's perspective, you have a lot of devices that we talked about. And of those 7 leading competitors that we put in that report that we released last year, the least polluting competitor contributed 10 times the amount of electronic waste to the environment compared to our solution. That's the least polluting competitor. If you're talking kilos of waste, for us it's less than a kilo. And if you don't have embedded receivers, we have our world's smallest receiver as well. They're 70 grams a piece, so even with 6 of those with our graphics card, is even less than a kilo of electronic waste. So it saves a lot for the environment as well. So let's talk about the innovations that we did. We've got a little video here. So this is our TA6 performance graphics card. You'll see in a second, we've got display in our lobby. It's a 5-meter width, so it's 6 4K displays, each one getting 4K resolution, obviously, with their independent video, using Affinity Desktop for AMD. The graphics card has 6 channels. Each one is 4K, so that means that the total resolution of this display wall is 13K by 4K, and here we're doing Fortnite, which is live produced content. So that's probably one of the tougher things that you can actually show in this type of resolution versus passive video content. So each one of these 6 channels can go over a distance of 100 meters using a regular cat cable, rather than using DP or HDMI. So here you're using the really awesome Belden HDBaseT cables. They are by far the best cables we've tested. And here we're doing 100 meters directly into each of the displays, and each one is 4K individual video, just to show you that we can do that as well. Using the ATX power supply, we can send power over our cat cable, so we can also power the receiver. So in this case, we're showing us powering the receiver on the display side, so you don't need any power adapters behind the displays or projectors. Our graphics card is also modular. We use the MXM module, so we can upgrade the GPU when needed. This is an E8860 from AMD. I'm taking it off and putting an E9550. I'm boosting up the GPU, and it's ready to go. Very simple to upgrade for the future. And we also include the IR pass-through, which is IR in and IR out. And in this case, we're showing Apple remote control, and we're controlling the Apple TV next to the display. And in this case, we're using a Samsung remote control. We can also sniff the IR signal, so we can then copy it and send it over emulated later. And we're controlling the volume from over a distance. In this case, it's a little shorter than 100 meters, but we can do over 100. We can use the USB header on the graphics card as well as on the motherboard to do emulated control. In this case, we're controlling RS-232 and sending custom serial console messages across the cable. We can also use the USB to give full HDBaseT diagnostics. This includes our receivers, so we can do fan speed and things like this. In this case, we're testing each of the 6 channels. There's only one channel that's plugged in, so we can see the signal integrity for each differential pair of the cat cable. So here we're just showing again a little bit more Fortnite, 13K by 4K. Of course, you're not going to get 120 FPS at that kind of resolution, but it's live generated content, which is really cool for projector people who are doing live events. So here we're also showing Google Earth zooming out, going from Norway to Taiwan, since we're Norwegians living in Taiwan and manufacturing there. You can also show that we can do split screen. It doesn't have to be one massive desktop. It could be multiple videos in one desktop at 13K resolution. And here I'm just walking in front of it to show you the size. So this is a 5-meter width installation. So 2019, what are we introducing this year? Because that was last year, some of the innovations that we made. What are the new things that we could do? We got a lot of feedback, a lot of demanding feedback. We wish we had that like 3 years ago. But it can more or less be kind of truncated into two items. One is make it more powerful, have more functionality, more options, and simplify it further. Make even the points of failure even less, and give us more price options, because we want some cheaper installations, we want some high-end installations. So the fastest and easiest one was to add a higher-end GPU for the shorter distance, because some people wanted more GPU power. That was a very quick, easy fix for us. Then the second part was a little bit more complex, because we were going from, our competitor had up to 54 physical points of failure between the media server and the display, and we shortened it to just 6. So how can we improve that even further? Well, some people asked, can you give us Ethernet? We could do that, but that would mean another Ethernet hub and maybe some extenders, and that means more points of failure. That goes completely against what we believe in. And then the second was, what about power? Can you give, PoE over here, and can you take away the power adapters for the display? Because that means more points of failure. So maybe you could power the display for us. That's okay. It's starting to get up there. And then the third one was kind of, can you give us more options in GPU power? Like, can you give us more AMD options? Can you give us more maybe NVIDIA? And that's really, really tough, because even NVIDIA and AMD, they do different channel allocations. So not an easy request. But we made some innovations, and we managed to address all of those problems, we hope. So this year we're introducing then embedded receivers in the display, so that we can actually power the displays. You don't need the power adapter anymore. And that's, right now we've been working with AD Techno, which is our distributor in Japan. They make some cool HDBaseT displays with 10 and 15 inch and FabriMax for 21 inch. So we've been able to do that. Then the second part was about Ethernet. Can you add Ethernet connectivity so that we can have a mass storage device downstream, or maybe even Wi-Fi access point on our display? We did that by taking away 2 of the channels, because more of the AMD and NVIDIA GPUs are coming out only have 4 channels. So we thought, okay, well, that frees up 2 of our ports for our 6-channel cards. So we could put an Ethernet hub there, so that we could also daisy chain the Ethernet from the graphics card also to the onboard motherboard, so that we can take away the Ethernet hub and the power adapters. And then we can use the ATX power, 12 volts times 13 amps, and deliver enough wattage per channel, at least 24 watts, and we can adjust it to power displays. A big issue with PoE is that not everyone is adapting PoE in the same way, because they want to do some proprietary ways of essentially want to create a proprietary way to do it so it only works with their products. Similar with PoH, but so what we did, we added a PoE controller that allows us to adjust the current level on the graphics card to adjust essentially the power level per channel. We also added PoE diagnostics for you to then find out what type of PoE device is downstream, so we can then adjust our PoE accordingly. And for different types of MXM modules and NVIDIA and AMD, we allow for MXM flexibility on our 4-channel cards, and we can now auto-identify whether it's an NVIDIA or an AMD, and it works with both of them. And we thought, okay, let's put it up even a step higher and go medical grade on our power and use galvanic isolation. So that's what we did. So we take away the Ethernet switch and the power adapters. So let's look at the system architecture. So in order to do what we are doing now, this is what our competitors would have to do. You'd have to have 78 physical points of failure. This does not include your voltmeters and diagnostic tools. And you're going to have power installation problems because you've got 12 power adapters. So we remove all of that, and we go straight from the media server into the displays, and you're down to, in the totality, 13 physical points of failure. Between here is 4. As I mentioned, no more Ethernet switch, no more power adapters. So here is a video to show you that it actually works, and if you don't believe the video, you can go over to our stand just behind here, and you can see that we're powering 4 displays from a graphics card. These are 10.5 inch over 100 meter distance. And then what about 15 inch? Yes, we can also do 15 inch. We don't have them with us today, but it works as well. And we've done up to 21 inch from a graphics card. It's the world's first, I think, graphics card that can actually power multiple displays, which is really cool. And then we got a lot of questions from projector guys. Can you do warping and blending? So we work with Warpalizer out of Sweden and Norway. Sent them one of our cards, and they set it up in the test system, and it's a small and compact, but the point is to show everything in one video. So we're warping and blending now from an HDBaseT graphics card. What you saw previously was just a passive video playback. So you also want to show a gaming demo. So right now it's warping and blending because it's a curved surface. This is without warping and blending. So you see the seam right here, and you see that the projector is going outside. So that's with no warp and blend, and this is with warping and blending. You see in a second, you'll see just the blend area, or the seam between the 2 projectors, and Warpalizer with our graphics card is capable then of adjusting the brightness level so it looks like one seamless display for projectors. Okay, I accidentally clicked, but essentially down here it's our 6-channel graphics card going up to our receivers to 2 Optoma projectors. So, what are the products that we are introducing here this year? Last year we had 3 HDBaseT graphics cards, 6 channels. We added the new one as I mentioned previously, and we added 4 new 4 channels. So these 2 are longer distances, 4 times 4K over cat cable, and the 2 top ports are Ethernet hubs. And then the more entry level, we have 4 channels of HDBaseT pure video going out, no Ethernet. So that means we have a price point that varies from the entry level up to the high end about 50%. So, and it's got a bunch of third-party certifications from medical to HDBaseT. So you know that it's good quality even for consumer-grade usage. We also introduced a 1-channel, so now we have a single 1-channel, 4-channel, and 6-channel. The single channel we decided not to add a GPU to because in most applications your CPU or onboard graphics is capable of delivering 1 or 2 channels of 4K 60. So this is a single PCIe card that allows you then to go from a single competitor's topology of 15 to 17 physical points of failure down to only 3 physical points of failure and be able to power the display as well. And this one is capable of delivering up to 130 watts, which means you can go 65-inch display and beyond, and also full certification. On the receiver side, last year we launched a world's smallest receiver. It was a POC, and this year we decided to give you the new receivers with PoE, that is both PoE, PoH, and POC, and as well launch our embedded solution. So if you're a display manufacturer or a projector manufacturer, talk to us. We would love to embed our receivers inside your displays and make a really compact solution. So some of the use cases. We get a lot of questions. How can I use these HDBaseT graphics cards? So the simple way to do it is with our graphics card that has 6 or 4 channels. It's either you can do multiple displays and have multiple graphics card in one server to drive many, many more displays. And you can use it for education, theater, as I showed. We can do some projection devices, commercial entry, all the way down to medical certification. We're going to go for military certification as well. And for the single card, it's all similar, but in this case, we're driving both USB as well as way more power, which means that wherever you have essentially a computer at every display, you can now remove that computer and put it in a safe location and be able to power the display and have all the functionality that you need of that computer downstream. And we add in this case residential because the single card can do 4K 60 or 444. So for the hardcore gamers, that's something of interest. So that's our presentation today. Please follow us on social media. We try to not spam you, so if you add yourself to our newsletter, we send maybe 1 email every 2 months. And if you have any questions, please come to me now after the presentation or come to our booth. Thank you so much.